I heard that you're a motivational speaker. And I know that a lot of young lawyers, especially at the Georgetown Defenders, they want to go into public defense, and they want to be on the ground trying criminal cases for poor people, for indigent clients. And as you know, that is exhausting work. There isn't a lawyer in the U.S. that doesn't know it. What would you say to somebody who feels ground down by that system, who feels like they're stuck?
Maybe think that they're overworked and underpaid.
Yes, yeah, exactly. What would you say to somebody like that from your own experience? Yeah.
Okay, let me give you my background. My first assignment out of law school was as the Chief Defense Counsel at a Marine Corps unit at Camp Lejeune, North Carolina. That's the equivalent of a federal public defender's office. I mean, everybody is a Marine officer. Everybody's licensed in different states, but they work for one lawyer. I was the senior lawyer because I had been an artillery officer and an infantry officer first before I went to law school. And so I have the experience of the public defender without one major factor which distinguishes, and that's they have limited funds for experts and other non-lawyer assistants. We had the same thing, but if we could convince a commander that we needed an investigator, we could get it if it really worked. There was a time where even as a civilian lawyer with a military case, but you have to understand that almost no military active duty person could afford a lawyer, a criminal defense lawyer worth his or her salt. And so we were the equivalent of public defenders. And so I have a soft spot in my heart for that. And in fact, as the president of Harris County Criminal Lawyers Association a couple of years back, we advocated for the creation of a public defender's office in Houston. Harris County did not have one. And they do have one now, and it's headed up by a really fine lawyer who I endorsed to, not me alone, but got on the bandwagon because he's a good lawyer and he's good him. And I have from time to time given continuing legal education classes for them so they stay certified. So all I can say is that if someone is a public defender, federal or state, they've got to be in there because they believe in defending the Constitution and working for the underdog. They're not going to make a fortune as a public defender, even the public defender. I had to fight the authorities at the time of the creation of the office to pay the public defender, the lead one, the same thing as the district attorney got paid. And that federal, that the district attorney's head person and the state public defender's person do now make the same amount of money. And I think that from having taught several classes to the people that come, I can tell from the questions that they answer and what appears to be their knowledge of the law, that they're in good shape here in Texas, in Houston at least. And the federal public defender's office, I think, is, if possible, is even in better shape than the state public defenders, because they've been established forever and they get paid on the government's, the federal government schedule. So, and we just finished a case, Terry Zimmermann and myself, that went all the way to the Supreme Court. And we didn't try the case, but we had the case on appeal and all the way up to the Supreme Court. And so we worked very closely with a public defender who I think wrote, and I don't say this very easily, wrote as well or better than either of us. And we think we write pretty well, especially if we've got time to think about it. And so he was very helpful in making suggestions, and I think they get paid on the same government service scale as the federal prosecutors do. So what I say to them is that you've got to be in the defense business for something other than money. It is not going to be where you can make a fortune by settling a case for $2 million and then being careful how you invest that so that you can live on that for a couple of years anyway. So I'm not sure I answered your question, but I think that what the public defender who has to really make a case twice because he's going to have to convince his superiors that we need money for an investigator. There ought to be investigators assigned to the public defender's office.
Yes.
I think there are in most places now. And so we're back to why you want to be a defense lawyer, whether it's paid or not paid. And I don't know if you want me to get into that at this point or not.
Why don't you? Yeah, I think that's important. So what is it? I think it's a powerful difference.
Well, I think that some people believe that criminal defense lawyers are not as patriotic as somebody else that is in a different line of legal work.
Yeah.
I take issue with that. I believe that in my career, trying to use my own career so that I'm sure that I'm not creating some kind of false image of somebody that I don't know for sure. I'll just rely on my own experiences. But I think that if you don't mind, I'll break it into the trial lawyer in the military, the prosecutor in the military, and the civilian and the defense lawyer in the military, and compare that to the equivalents in the civilian world. Because I'm pretty sure that most of the people that are going to look at this tape are going to be not military people. But
right.
As a judge, as a trial judge, I believe that I had taken an oath, the same oath that I had taken many years before at the United States Naval Academy to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And then again, when I got commissioned as a Marine officer, that I took an oath to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And so as a trial judge, I thought that I had took that same oath with a few other words in it. And in order to be true to that oath, have to do your job the best to your best of your ability. My experience with defense lawyers that are either public defenders or military defense lawyers, they are as good as any other lawyers are, and they often have to overcome financial difficulties that many lawyers do not. However, I will tell you, I'm getting ready to write a letter once we pass this obligation here, because I put this as the highest obligation for my current assignments. I'm going to write the federal public defender herself, the one in charge of that, and commend this young man who worked with us on this case that was just denied by writ of certiorari to the Supreme Court this last week. But he went above and beyond. He was dedicated to his client. He's worked his tail off. We were working weekends and he was right there with us. And so I'm gonna let her know that she's got a good hand there in her shop. So that's a long way of saying that I think that if we get back to why prosecutors, what I think the role of the prosecutor is, and even in the civilian world, I think in the military it's the same, and that's to seek justice and not to get a conviction. Before I was assigned as a prosecutor in the Marine Corps, they sent me to a career prosecutors course, and guess where it was at that time? I don't know where it is now, but it was at the University of Houston Law School. They sponsored it. And I remember the first day by the lecturer from, at the time, the leading prosecutor in the country. I can't remember his name right now because I hadn't had any contact with him. And he started off his presentation by saying the prosecutor in the courtroom is the most powerful person in the world. With just a stroke of a pen, he can ruin a person's life by returning an indictment, even if the person is acquitted. And he said, I expect each one of you to go back to wherever you're coming from. And I think I was the only military student in the course. And remember that your mission is to see that justice is done and not to win the case. And if you see that justice is not being done, you need to step in and do something about it, because you have more power than anybody, any decision maker in the chain. Even if you go up through the chain of command and conviction and then appellate work and all that stuff, it all started with the prosecutor's decision to file a particular case and to try it a certain way. And so I think then, just like let's go back, the trial judge has a constitutional duty to make sure that the trial is fair. And he or she should not be taking sides. The law should govern in that courtroom. That's what I think the trial judge's responsibilities are. The prosecutor is to make sure that he or she is following the law and standing up for the Constitution as well, and not looking at a tick mark on the wall of how many convictions that person has. And how about the defense lawyer? Well, in my view, the defense lawyer is absolutely essential for the system to work, because if not, then mistakes that may be really just mistakes or sometimes intentional misconduct can infect a trial, a military trial, a civilian trial. It's the same. And so the defense lawyer, I view our role is to make sure everybody's doing what they're supposed to do. That's what the role is. And if you're a public defender, I expect that you will be as competent as someone who's a paid lawyer and is motivated to represent your client the same as anybody else does. And so I have the highest regard for federal public defenders, for prosecutors, and for defense lawyers who are doing their job.